I want you to imagine a pair of middle schoolers riding the bus to school one morning. They're these two close friends, yet somehow bitter rivals. But not like in a cool anime way or anything, they're just these two regular, boring kids. One of them is a huge fan of anime, and Vocaloid as well, and the other one liked to tease them for having weird interests. Now, get this, these two kids you're imagining, they were actually my friend and I a few years ago, and believe it or not, I wasn't even the anime fan. Yeah, I know, that's very surprising when you click on a video with a title like this, but back then I didn't know the first thing about anime or Vocaloid. I just thought they were weird and cringy, and I left it at that. But despite my personal feelings, I would still talk to my friend about his favorite hobbies all the time. And the one special day that stands out to me the most was the day he showed me a song. I still vividly remember the day he showed me Rolling Girl. I can still see the scene of the two of us on the bus, gazing into his phone screen. I can even remember what street we were on and the buildings as they passed by. Though I made an effort to brush the song off back then, it still managed to stick around in my thoughts for years. There was something so unique about that video to me. It was like nothing I had ever seen before. From the outside looking in, anime always seemed so bright and colorful, so much so that it came off as childish. So, to see this distressed girl frantically running through her school, breaking down as she passed their empty classrooms, something felt so deeply off to me. It served as one of the first realizations that I didn't quite understand what anime and Vocaloid were, or what they could be. Even though I had no investment in that Rolling Girl herself, mental images of that video permanently etched themselves into my brain, remaining in my thoughts long after seeing it for the first time, and long before seeing it for the second. 2 years later, I gave anime a chance, and while I was still hesitant to delve into Vocaloid for years after that, I came around eventually, having never forgotten that day. This is the story of how my life changed in an admittedly small way, but it's a way that means the world to me regardless. It's a story of growth, acceptance, and the power of music. And it's a story that all began with a bus, a piano, and a certain blue-haired anime girl. Hatsune Miku, an icon needless of introduction. The virtual pop star has cemented her place in global pop culture. With millions of fans and a couple thousand husbands, Miku has touched the hearts of so many people across the entire world, with myself being one of them. Though I can't say that's been the case for very long. While I've only been Miku's fan for a handful of months at this point, my history with the #1 princess in the world goes way back. So let's run things back, all the way to the beginning of middle school. Back then, I was a completely different person than I am today. I led a one-man crusade against anime, and particularly Vocaloid back in those days. Yup, that's right, I was exactly the kind of kid to do whatever it took to irritate the out of my friends. But the one friend I liked to bother the most was the one I rode the bus with. He was an avid anime fan with a ceaseless love of Vocaloid, and I wasn't having any of that. We didn't have much to do most days on the bus, besides looking out the window, I guess. So we spent most days doing every kid's favorite thing, talking about pointless which for him was most often about anime, and for me, why it was f***ing stupid. The closest thing I had to a catchphrase back then was, "Vocaloid is trash." I'd shout it out whenever the opportunity presented itself, which was more than often enough to become really f***ing annoying. I actually spat it out so often that I have a number of recorded instances of it. Years ago, I used to upload these vlogs of me doing absolutely nothing or being a complete nuisance to my friends on YouTube. They had no real entertainment value, but for some reason I thought the world needed to see them. Well, those old videos are all long gone, but the one thing that a lot of them had in common was a strong distaste for Vocaloid.
Yes, because your Vocaloid is trash.
Vocaloid is trash! Vocaloid is trash!
You mad, bro? You mad?
Miku, Vocaloid, stupid Japanese Vocaloid trash name.
While all the things that I did and said back then were all meant in good fun, I still can't help but feel a little bad for how I used to treat my friend. If I were in his position, I would totally get upset if someone were trying to dunk on what I cared about every day. Even if they needed a step stool to reach the hoop and still managed to miss. At the end of the day, I know my friend didn't mind all that much. He seemed to enjoy getting the opportunity to come up with 1,000 different ways to say no you, whatever garbage that I'd spout. The two of us are still on good terms to this day, actually, so, thanks for putting up with me, dude. Even though I didn't come around to anime or Vocaloid for a little while later in my life, I still consider my formal introduction to Miku through Rolling Girl a very special experience to me. Back then, it was honestly unheard of for something that I didn't have any inherent interest in, and also wasn't traumatized by, just have so much real estate in my brain. But that begs the question, if an experience like that wasn't enough to get me into Miku, what would it actually take? Quite the question indeed. You see, everything changed for me in April of last year. Despite being so deep down the anime rabbit hole at that point, I had managed to keep a lot of distance between me and Hatsune Miku. I don't know if it was because I still thought she was weird or something from my time in middle school, but I usually just kept in my own lane and listened to anime openings or something. And that's exactly what I was doing one day in April. I was just on YouTube listening to some anime song, and I noticed something unusual on the recommended bar. I saw this thumbnail I'd never seen before, and it had Miku in it. And I was honestly really curious because I'd never gotten one of her songs recommended to me. So, feeling a tad adventurous, I clicked it, and though I didn't know it yet, in that moment, my life would change forever. Listening to World Is Mine for the very first time completely turned my old abandoned perception of Vocaloid on its head. Even without understanding a single word, I was blown away. I was absolutely mesmerized by the song. It felt so familiar yet so unique, drawing me in with its upbeat, fun, and captivating charm. It felt like fireworks were going off in my head for that entire 4 minutes and 14 seconds. But like, in a good way, not a "my little brother just shoved a sparkler in my ear" kind of way. I sat there, stunned, as the walls I built up so many years ago went up in flames. As the last embers of my foolish childhood contempt fizzled out, something hit me. I was in love. Uh-oh. So, about a few weeks later in May, I stumbled across Hatsune Miku Project Diva Future Tone while browsing the free section of the PlayStation Store. I had heard about the Project Diva series in the past from friends, and I was honestly kind of curious how the game played. I had already had a small taste of rhythm games at that point with Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, so I was like, sure, let's see what the blue girl can do. So I did. It was very fun. Despite only having 2 songs to play, I was completely captivated by the gameplay and music. Having gotten a sample of Miku's music, and once again feeling a tad adventurous, I ventured to Spotify, only to stumble across the playlist, This is Hatsune Miku. That playlist served as a huge jumping on point for me, getting me acquainted with a lot of different producers and sounds. I really enjoyed exploring it. It wasn't long after that until I really stepped into the deep end. Come late June, I decided to make my first monetary offering to appease the blue pigtailed goddess. After listening to her music for a while and loving the gameplay of the demo, I finally decided to buy the expansions for Project Diva Future Tone, and from there my fate was sealed. I was truly doomed to the life of a Miku fan. Future Tone easily blew all other rhythm games I had ever played out of the water. The base game's massive 200+ song library was at the same time both extremely intimidating and utterly awe-inspiring. Kind of like when you see a really buff dog start barking at you, and you just know that the chain is on is kind of suggestion, but you can't quite look away, so you start to back up, and then it stands up and you start running and you hear a loud snap, and the owner from a quarter mile away shouts, "He don't bite," but you know he do, so you look back and the dog is already right behind you, and you're like, "Whoa, look at that dog go!" Future Tone was really what helped me expand my horizons the most, introducing me to Krypton's other popular Vocaloid singers. There's the Kagami twins Rin and Len, Megadine Luca, Kaito, and Mako. Among just the 6 singers in the game, there was a great deal of variety in Future Tone's music, making every track an exciting new discovery. I've still only scratched the surface of all the songs in the game, and I've had it for a while at this point. There's just too many good songs in Project Diva to count. Look, I need you to be honest with me. How many of you didn't know Hatsune Miku did not make her own music before you found out about producers? Because I f***ing didn't. I never really knew that Miku was a publicly available computer application for a while, so I wasn't exactly sure where the music came from before I started listening to her. I know that sounds really stupid, but I know I can't be the only one that was that dumb. At least someone watching this has to have thought that in the past. I cannot be the weird one here. It's time for everyone's favorite game show. Whose song is that? Alright, contestant, who wrote the song Senbon Zakura? Hatsune Miku? I'm sorry, it was actually Kuro Usa. Who? When it comes to Vocaloid music, I learned that the actual artists are the producers, not the anime girls singing. So not only do producers craft the melody of the song and the instrumental accompaniment, but they also work with the voices of the voice banks themselves to change the sound. This is done through a process known as tuning, which is specific to Vocaloid. Through tuning, producers shape the sound of a character's voice, altering the tone, adjusting the delivery of words, and overall crafting and controlling the sound to an extremely expressive degree. Think of it kind of like how electric guitars have a plethora of different sounds, from distortion and various other effects that can be applied, but instead of being something that you can hold and play with, it's just something that you wish you could. I've really come to appreciate how much a voice bank and their tuning can bring to a song, particularly with Miku. Due to her popularity, she has an enormous assortment of different tuning sounds based on who's working with her. I think it's so cool that a listener can distinguish the producer of a song based solely off the tuning of the vocals alone. It astonishes me how the same voice can be used in either a robotic-sounding way or one completely lifelike, while still remaining recognizable. And I love how so many songs can have so much variety by genre and sound, yet still feel so familiar because of the voice singing, despite their differences. This isn't exclusive to Vocaloid or anything, but I mean, it's not like you're gonna get into death metal because Pitbull got bored of pop music. Beyond Project Diva, I just continued to fall further and further down the rabbit hole. I eventually discovered other Vocaloids that I would come to love, like Megpoint Gumi, who I feel like I'd be doing a criminal disservice for not mentioning here since she's one of my personal favorites. I kept looking around on YouTube and Spotify, finding a bunch of new songs that I would come to fall in love with. Banger after banger after banger after banger. Vocaloid stopped being this weird, foreign entity for me and just became something that I enjoyed. There's always this enthralling, personal feeling of discovery with Vocaloid music for me, and it's something that just feels really special when I stumble across that one song that really resonates with me. Vocaloid has also just blown my mind to pieces on occasion. I found this random song one day before I started to dip my toes in Vocaloid, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It was called Yoi Yoi Kokan by Real, and if you're into Vocaloid, there's a reason you'll recognize her name. A few months later, after I got into Vocaloid, I stumbled across her song Hipikase, and I found out that Real was actually a famous Vocaloid artist. Huh? And how many of you actually knew this was a Miku song? Because I sure didn't in 2011. If you are a fan of My Hero Academia, you might know the song Peace Sign, the anime's second opening theme by Kenshi Yonezu. Well, for literal months, I wondered why Kenshi Yonezu was singing under Miku and Hachi's song Sand Planet, and had his own cover of it as well. Kenshi Yonezu is actually Hachi, you absolute fool. Oh. All that's cool and everything, but hold on, I've saved the most mind-blowing of discoveries for last. You see, there was a group that got me into J-pop, more than just listening to anime and openings and everything, just like actually listening to J-pop, and that was Egoist. The writer for that group was a guy named Ryo, right? And Ryo actually had quite the career before forming Egoist as a spin-off of another group. That group was called Supercell, and yeah, they're pretty popular. They worked on Monogatari, Guilty Crown, Vocaloid, you know, and yeah, Ryo wrote World Is Mine. I'm still trying to grapple with that. It's crazy. Small world, huh? But I find it really comforting that I've always had these small connections to Vocaloid, even though I didn't know about them yet. Like, especially with Egoist, I really had my eyes opened. I used to only listen to Japanese music because it was from anime I liked, and I needed to associate it with something because I didn't understand the lyrics, and it didn't really have any value if I didn't, right? But when I started listening to Egoist, I just started to realize that if it sounds good, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't need to be from an anime, you don't need to understand it. Music is music. Even beyond that, there's so many people who started in Vocaloid and later moved on to other things, and I found them in those other things first. So coming back, it's like, oh, hey, I know you. But, I don't know, it's just crazy and surreal, and I'm kind of at a loss for words. Oh, that got kind of heavy. Excuse me. I think it's kind of ironic that I ended up making this video. Years ago, I couldn't fathom even listening to Miku, let alone spending months making a video love letter to her. But I think it's exactly that old mindset of mine that makes finally becoming a fan of hers so special to me. I went from looking down on anime to essentially breathing it, and from dismissing Miku to hanging up her poster on my wall. It feels like ever since I started seriously getting into anime and otaku culture, it was never a matter of if, but when I would become a Miku fan. I really have become what I once wished to destroy. And I'm gonna be honest, that's really funny. Music is often called a universal language, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Even when music is sung in a completely foreign language, it still has the power to move people emotionally. Without even understanding a single word, a song can make a person smile, dance, or even shed a tear or two. And I think that's truly beautiful. Hatsune Miku is a worldwide pop culture icon, and that's because even though she may sing in Japanese, everyone speaks music. Despite living in a post-Gangnam style world, I didn't understand that back then. I think it's safe to say that Hatsune Miku changed my life, even if that was only in a small way. But hey, as cliche as it is, I guess it really is the small things in life that mean the most. Because of her, I've realized so much about what music can be and how much it can mean to people, even to those millions of miles away who can't understand the lyrics. I've found new hobbies, sinking more time than I would like to admit into various rhythm games, and I've made some incredible friends who I've been able to share a love of music with. And I think that's what feels the best about any community, sharing what you love with others. I've felt so moved over the last year as I've fallen in love with a genre that I once ridiculed, and I wanted to share my story, and most importantly, my joy with you all. Because this music wholeheartedly makes me happy. The characters, the games, the producers, all of it, they all mean so much to me, and I wanted to share that with all of you. I wanted to give everyone watching the opportunity to maybe find the same joy in the things that I've come to fall in love with. I'll be the first to admit that I haven't even scratched the surface of Vocaloid yet. I've only followed pretty mainstream stuff, and done so for about a year at this point. Nonetheless, I'd like to share some of my favorite Vocaloid tracks with you all. I've put together a playlist titled Hatsune Miku Mixtape, and there you'll find 39 of my choice Vocaloid tracks, plus a bonus cover song. Feel free to use it as a jumping on point if you're new to Vocaloid, or if you just want a playlist with some solid songs. See what I did there? That's really funny, huh? Seemingly against all odds, I was able to fall in love with something that I never paid any mind to, so even if you've never once thought about listening to Vocaloid before, you very well could find something here that makes your day just the tiniest bit better. So I sincerely hope that you'll check it out. Don't be like my middle school self. Don't be afraid to try new things, even if you think they're weird, and don't just be dismissive. Maybe what you walked away from was what could have redefined your life, but you'll never know now. I mean, it's worth a shot, isn't it? And to all of you watching, if you take anything away from this video, let it be this. Just listen to the music that you like, and don't feel ashamed of it. At the end of the day, everyone deserves to listen to the music that makes them happy. And whether you like Hatsune Miku or Young Gravy, music is music, and all that really matters is that you can enjoy whatever it is that you choose to listen to. Now more than ever, music is extremely accessible, and in today's world of advanced technology and global streaming, it's easy to forget that every song is made with just a little bit of magic. So listen to the music that makes you happy. Listen to the music that makes you feel powerful. And listen to the music that changes your life. Thanks for watching.